Good afternoon. Our next session is about to begin. This is a panel on how emerging technologies are transforming in the cities we live in. This will be chaired by the Head of Digital Strategy and Content at Broadcaster, Mr. Pipo Serrano. Please welcome him and the panel to the floor. Thank you.
Smog. Okay, here we go.
So good afternoon. Thank you all. Thank you very much for joining this plenary session, in where we will try to highlight how emerging technologies are transforming the cities we live in. Since many of these technologies surround us, and especially since they connect them with the cities, we are all getting used to listen to some new terms or some terms connected to this, such as 5G, connectivity, blockchain, circular economy, sustainability, digitalization, mobility. There are lots of mobilities and ETs, which probably my mom would never understand, or half of them would never understand. Hopefully most of all agree that the goal of a smart city is to provide, and any city, to provide a better life to the citizens that live in. And I'm sure that we'll all try to explain it in a really clear way so that we can bring that message. We'll all have time to debate it, but I'm very interested on several topics. I'm very interested, for example, on the topic of, and we've been talking a bit, innovation versus regulation, at the same time versus ethics and competition. I would love to discuss also afterwards if all cities should adapt to the same type of model, or we should kind of build and tailor a different model for each city. As Professor Moreno said sometime, Paris is more similar in some matters to San Francisco than to Lyon or Nice. So probably we have to tailor a different model for each city. I want to thank you very much to our speakers, the fact that they found time to share with us their learnings, their knowledge. Thank you very much. Ms. Bofinger from Siemens, thank you very much. Professor Moreno from the City of Paris. Ms. Tataj from Tataj Foundation. Ms. Al-Kouari, thank you very much from Ms. Rape Properties. Hope I said it properly now. And thank you very much also Mr. Arias Antunes from Deloitte for joining us. Thanks very much. The plenary session, I'm just going to make a quick explanation on how this is going to work. It's going to be the first 20 minutes listening to our speakers and listening to their vision on the main topic of this session. Afterwards, there's going to be a 25 minutes debate in where they're going to be able to discuss and try to explore the different ideas they just mentioned. And of course, we will open this debate to you, and I would love to open it to you also through this app. I know that some of you downloaded the app on your phones, the app of the Smart City World Expo, but there is a place in where you can do this ask and vote. If you please bring any question to the ask and vote panel, we'll try to share it afterwards with our guests. And finally, we'll conclude this session and thank everyone for their participation. So let's start with this 4 minutes explanation from each of our speakers, and let's try to see how they analyze this phenomena, this way of how these emerging technologies should transform our cities. And I would like to start with Ms. Bofinger. So whenever you want. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Well, thank you, people. Thank you very much for having me here today. When we speak about cities, for us at Siemens, it gets very obvious that this is actually today the melting pot of where the technology is actually really happening. Why is that? Well, I guess we are all aware because the mega trends that are currently shaping and also challenging our world are all coming together in the cities. It's about urbanization, it's about globalization, it's about climate change, and last but not least, it's about digitalization. And I personally believe That's actually currently the most exciting, the most thrilling, and the most changing effect that we see in the cities. Giving you an example, like as we speak, within actually 60 seconds, there are 500,000 tweets being created. There are, within 60 seconds, 150 emails being sent. So there's so much data being produced every second, and that's not even including the information that you are now getting from IoT. And if you sum this up, actually by 2020, we expect that there is a data volume out of 44 zettabytes. So I actually had no idea what 44 zettabytes are. Maybe we have some experts in here who can answer it. So I looked it up, and 44 zettabytes of data in 2020 actually means that if you travel around the world, and if you visit every single beach, and if you take every single grain of sand at these beaches, and you count them, then you end up at 44 zettabytes. That's the data that we expect to have by 2020. And today, only 0.5% of the data that is out there is being used. So this is a huge change. And for the city, this is obviously, on the one hand, a bit intimidating, which I fully understand. It's asking for flexibility, for being agile, for dealing with all sorts of new players that are popping up. But on the other hand, it's a big, big chance. It's the chance to improving the operations, being more efficient. It's a chance to use the data in a way that the city is more livable, that you have better air quality, for example, topic that we are working on. And we see a lot of cities that are actually taking this chance. And the cities that are doing this are doing it in different ways. There's some cities who would start with one use case somewhere, can be on smart lighting, can be on any kind of use case, any pain point that they have. And on the other hand, there are other cities who would go in with having a big vision, a clear roadmap, and then now starting small. And I personally believe that that's actually a very good way of handling this change. You have to have a big vision. And our vision is that the city will be all electric, it will be all connected, and it will have an open ecosystem. And it's a big vision, and we don't know when this is going to happen, but it's starting now. So we really believe it's important to now starting to taking control of this digital journey within the city, making sure you own the algorithms, you're shaping them, so that if at the end, maybe the infrastructure in a city is fully automized based on data, on algorithms, that you have shaped these algorithms, that you have control of them. And so that's actually where we believe it's important to make the individual digital journeys of the cities real. And I think it's now the time to start. And if we look at maybe the last number from me, if you look at the number of assets that are being connected today, it's 85% that are not connected. And that's actually where we believe it's now time to change that and to connect the cities, to make them again all electric, all connected, and with an open, stable ecosystem. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Ms. Bofinger. Electric, connected, algorithms, data. We'll have time to discuss that. And there is something that I don't want to disturb now, Professor Moreno, but I know he's going to catch up with that thing of the algorithms. I know he's going to do it, but let's leave Professor Moreno to explain what is his point. I've read some people saying he's the smart cities expert, so let's listen carefully. Whenever you want, Professor.
Thank you, people. Thank you for organizing for this invitation. I'm very happy to share with you on the panel several points of view about the emergence of technologies in cities. My position is a dual position because I am a professor at the Sorbonne University. I am scientific director of the chair focused on territories, innovation, and entrepreneurship. And at the same time, I am a special advisor of the mayor of Paris focused on smart cities in a vision about a smart city. The baseline of Smart City Expo this year is cities to live in. And I consider that when discussed about technologies, the first question is cities to live in. What kind of cities we want to live in? In reality, the most important problem today in cities is what is the real quality of life? How can we improve the quality of life for citizens? The cities are a very complex system. I consider that cities is alive. This is an organism. The cities today represent the place of the women, the men live, work. You have very different vital needs. We share on territory, cities, metropolises, region. We have different level of the governance. We have several activities in cities. What is the role of technologies today? The 21st century is a special century because on the one hand, people today live in cities. This is the phenomenon of the massive urbanization. At the same time, the 21st century is the century of the massive ubiquity. We have hyper-connected. We have in permanence all kinds of tools, the hardware, smart devices, and all kinds of apps. But the question is, when we have this very massive urbanization and we have this massive hyper-connectivity, what is the real social connection in cities? Because in many cities, people are fully connected by technologies and totally disconnected in the social activities. The social disconnection, the urban social disconnection, is today one of the most important points. At the same time, the cities are very inequities. The cities represent today a place in order to fight against the most important challenge. It's not a technical challenge. For the city of Paris, the most important challenge today is how can we live with the climate change. The climate change, the real way, the path in order to build a low-carbon city is our main challenge today. This is the first point. All decisions in the city of Paris are guided by how can we fight against climate change. The second point is how can identify in cities common goods. The common good is today the heart of the possibility to improve the quality of life. What is the common good in cities? I consider that the common good in cities are the air, because the air of cities is polluted, water, because we have less and less water, shadow, because the climate change, heat wave, place, because this is very compact cities, the place is very reduced in cities, time, because we live in hectic cities, and the sixth common good, the silence, because we live in a very noisy cities by all kinds of hyper-connections with many impossibility to exist, correctly identify the good information, the fake news, air, water, shadow, place, time, and silence. The city of Paris, this point are conducive to develop the vision of a sustainable city with two pillars very important today. The open city, but it's not only open technology city, it's not only open data, it's not only open infrastructures. The most important point to develop open cities is the democracy, is the possibility to develop in participative city, to involve citizens, to involve the stakeholders, to invoke all kinds of people in cities in order to transform cities. Open, this is the first pillar. The second pillar, of course, the connected city. The connected city is not only to develop Wi-Fi, free Wi-Fi in cities, not only free Wi-Fi in the bus, in the underground, it's the possibility to social connected people. The people who live in cities, the refugees, the migrants, the different people who arrive in cities and live in cities. Sustainable city, open city, connected city. This is today our roadmap with very different decisions which have took by the mayor of Paris in order to build the city of Paris with this concept sustainable, inclusive, connected, and resilient cities.
Thank you, Professor. We'll be able to go deeper on that. Time to talk with Ms. Tataj from Tataj Innovation. She's the chairwoman of high-level advisor in EU Commissioner for Science and Innovation, Carlos Moedas. So I'm very pleased to have her here too. I would like to hear which is your point of view. We've got 4 minutes.
Today, to succeed, both governments and businesses need to innovate. And cities are perfect places for a laboratory, how businesses and governments can innovate together. Very often when you think about technology, you think that it will take you where you want to be. But technology is just an enabler. And today, more and more, the technology has become a commodity. You can buy it, you can copy it, you can re-engineering it, you can invite people to your city to deploy the technology that you need. We also live in the world awash with ideas. Ideas are not a problem today. What is a problem is to understand what is your growth model for the digital age. If you're a large city, if you're a mid-sized city, if you are a new city, or if you are a post-industrial city, struggling how to prevent the brain drain and how to give a more meaning to the communities that you mentioned, the communities that are really stuck in the past and have hard time to catch up into the future, your goal as the city leader or as a business leader is to think how innovation, entrepreneurship, and network thinking can take you to where you want to be. I'm the chairwoman of high-level advisors to European Commissioner for Research, Science and Innovation, Carlos Moedas, and we discuss how the €100 billion budget that will be one of the pillars of Europe's growth model for the coming 7 years should impact European citizens. Engaging them in this discussion is critical. And indeed, technology enables dramatic changes and discontinuity today. But unless you're able to engage people into the meaningful discussion and showcase at the same time thought leadership, what will the deployment of this or that technology mean for this or that community will be critical for the economic development of every city, old or new, large or mid-size. Let me give you an example. 3D printing. Many cities in Europe are post-industrial cities that are struggling how to reinvent their growth model for the digital age. And 3D printing is a technology that allows them for reindustrialization, for creation of meaningful jobs locally, it will have huge impact on community patterns, on family patterns, on education quality. This is just one of the examples. Another example is that we have access today to massive data. But unless we ask the right questions, this is just numbers. We need to ask meaningful questions. Where do we want to be in 10 years' time? And what do we need to do today to get there together? I'm working with city mayors, chief innovation officers, with top business leaders, governments, and I'm trying to help them understand that we live in a networked world. Change happens in a different way than it used to happen. Innovation happens in a different patterns that it used to happen. And as leaders, we need to understand how to manage, how to lead through this process. At Tata Innovation, we have developed a very simple models to help leaders think through this change. Number one, you need to understand networks. We are not taught what networks mean for business or for governments. Number two, you need to be able to consciously, strategically create the networks you need for the development of your city. And number three, as leaders, you need to understand how to orchestrate these networks across investors' networks, real estate developers, scientists, innovators, industry, entrepreneurs, how to help them integrate the local ecosystem. Because only if you're tightly knit locally, integrated locally, you can then make a meaningful value proposition to connect with other ecosystems that together you can create a networked ecosystem to be able to compete globally. This is what we do.
Thank you very much. So interesting. We'll have to talk a lot about that. I love that part of it's important, the massive data we get, but what is really important is the meaningful questions we ask. Let's keep on discovering new ideas, this time from Mr. Jamal Al-Kawari from Misrip Properties. Hope I said it properly, as I said. And let's listen. I don't know if you've been going through the expo and you saw what these people is working in. I would love to that you can explain it and you can share us that amazing, super futurist city that you have there.
I have all the information here.
Whenever you want. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jamal Kawari, and I am the Chief Commercial Officer of Misrip Property. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to present our main project, Misrip Downtown, at the Smart City Expo in Barcelona. Misrip Property is an urban development company, subsidiary of Qatar Foundation, which is transforming the downtown of Doha using the latest innovations in a smart city and sustainability. The project includes 100 buildings, gold and platinum LEED certified, 800 apartments, and 300 retail units. We have 4 hotels, 4 museums, and 1 school. Baraha Central Square, this is a natural thermal controlled. Electric trams, 2.7 kilometers underground surface tunnels. We have underground railway station and 10,000 plus car parks. Misrip Property is also responsible about managing citizen service and operate and maintain this project as a smart city. As a smart city, we want to provide a better quality of life to our residents, visitors, and tenants. To do so, we have developed 4 separate smart city layers: digital infrastructure, system integration, application interface, innovation ecosystems. Misrip has a robust network infrastructure connecting all systems, buildings, homes, devices, and people. Everything is connected. The digital infrastructure includes full Wi-Fi and GSM connectivity above and below ground, 430 kilometers of fiber optic cables, 2 data centers, 600 plus sensors and connected devices. Our city has a future-proof infrastructure ready to lead the introduction of 5G technology in Qatar. This infrastructure supports the integration of all urban systems in the single smart city platform. The platform allows us to operate and maintain the city in a real time from a command and control center and facility management hubs. The system integration includes more than 14 urban and building systems like waste collection, district cooling, car park, irrigation, among others. Different interconnected application and data platforms help us to anticipate future management needs and to provide better citizen service. The application include information on business intelligence, energy management, predictive maintenance, data analysis. In addition, community and portal and wayfinding application gives access to added value services and direction of visitors, residents, and tenants. We are working to establish a Smart City Innovation Center to identify and test new digital solutions. With citizens, we are working with universities, local and international startups. Our innovation ecosystem is currently developing applications on augmented reality, smart retail, cybersecurity. We would like Musharraf to become a model of future smart city around the world and learn from other developments and innovations. It has been a pleasure sharing with you our vision, how technology is changing cities. Finally, I look forward to see all of you in Qatar to know more about this project and be part of the celebration of the Football World Cup in 2022. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your explanation. Time to finish our first round of 4 minutes for each of the speakers with Mr. Erez Antunes from Deloitte is also going to give us his point of view.
Okay. I'm the last. Luckily, my message is very aligned to the previous speaker, so I'm okay. I'm comfortable. I will share with you our view, the view of Deloitte around technology adoption and what is critical in order to make sure that that technology is used is implemented in the best use of cities. But first of that, I would like to share with you our view and a bit of my view on what's a smart city. And to do that, last week I asked my kids, I have 3 great kids, what was relevant for them on the city. I also asked my wife, then I asked some friends. Then during these 3 days, I've been asking to academia, municipality managers, dozens of municipality managers we have talked to technology companies, what would be relevant. And I would try to summarize that in 3 words. So, smarter cities are cities where people are very happy. We want to be happy. So that's one thing. Where companies are successful and where things are sustainable. So those are the 3 things that, and technology is incredibly important for that. We want to be happy, we want to be healthy, we want to be safe, we want to be educated, we want to be entertained, we want to communicate in team with each other. Of course, we want to be motivated, and we want some love around us. So, and without technology, many of these things are very difficult to achieve. The second thing is, of course, companies must be successful, and in a city or in a community. And two very, I would say, recent examples is last week we had a Web Summit in Lisbon. Web Summit is for the next 10 years. Why is Lisbon investing 11 million each year in order to have a Web Summit there? Because they know, they have studied that they will have a 300 million return in each year they invest 11 million. And why? They will have new companies, new startups, lots of innovation. Companies like Siemens are bringing 400 people for cyber for Lisbon. In mobility, companies like Volkswagen and Mercedes and things like that will move to Lisbon, not just because of Web Summit, but also because of Web Summit. Second great example is us. Barcelona. Barcelona is a smart city by brand, and why is Barcelona investing in the Smart Cities World Congress, in the Mobility World Congress? Of course, because in order to make companies more successful. Then if you go to sustainability, one great example from this week or last week is that in Mexico, they have one thing that they call the City Lab, Laboratorio para la Ciudad, in Spanish, where they put the community, the citizens together, making hackathons on things like how to better save water, how to have a better air quality, and it's done by citizens, and the citizens are the ones. And this is exactly what Mr. Carlos was saying, was the quality of air, the water, and you can involve your community on that. And what is, I would say, critical in order to make this happen, in order to make sure that technology is adopted? I think there are 4 things. The first thing is to have a clear vision. The city should know what the city stands for. For instance, Cascais, we have been working, it's near Lisbon. We have been working, they say, okay, our role is to be the best place to live for their lifetime. And based on that, they go for each domain, in mobility, in environment, what we should do, on security, what we should do. And they work with their ecosystem of partners. We have been part of that, luckily. They work with their ecosystem of partners in order to make that happen, to make I would say, an action plan, a business case, and in order to work collectively with their partners. So work with your ecosystem is critical. I'm getting without microphone, but there's no problem. Do you hear me? Yes, good. The third thing, which I think is very critical in order to make this happen.
Just in case, Miguel, if some from our colleagues in the technical team can just fix the mic from Miguel, it would be great.
Yeah, but
it just fall off.
Yeah.
But I think we can hear you. Just in case it falls off, definitely we will have fixed that for you.
Yeah, no problem. The third thing, it's, I would say, an alliance approach. It's funding and financing. So it's very relevant to have an innovative approach. I'm getting without microphone.
Yeah, let's just wait a sec, because I think what Mr. Arias Antunes is
very
so
confidential discussion.
We better listen, because afterwards these people have to discuss a bit about it. So
We switch on mode secret.
yeah, correct.
Now we can hear. The third thing, which is very relevant in order to make this happen, is to have an alliance approach. So innovative ways of financing, and of course we need to debureaucratize a lot our procurement processes, at least in some countries. And to finish, and we have talked a bit about this, all the cities we've talked to, they are doing great things. They have great apps, they have great solutions, but sometimes they are very decentralized solutions. Everybody we talk to, they all say, okay, we have this and we have that, but sometimes we as city managers are not being able to analyze this info in a meaningful way. Sometimes the things that are being implemented are not impacting citizens. So what we need to do, we need to create this philosophy of city operating systems where you aggregate all the data, and that's one area where we as Deloitte have also been investing hugely in order to make sure all the data is correlated, and they may be analyzed by city managers in an integrated and correlated way by each one of the applications.
Thank you very much. So, time to get a bit warm with the different topics we've been exploring. Mr. Arias Antunes said he was the last. So I'll give him the opportunity to be the first on the next question I'm going to ask, just to be fair. You said you've been exploring with your family, with your colleagues, with your friends. What was really important for each of them of a city? What's important for you in a city? My question for all of them, and I want you to choose one, because if we start just giving them all, that's too easy. So, which is the most important thing? And it's I don't know if I can say that. It's not allowed to copy. What is the most important thing for you in a city? What do you want?
The first thing is a basic thing is healthcare. So it's the basic thing. So if you don't have health, nothing else matters.
All right.
Just ask me one.
Yeah, that's good. Next, Ms. Al-Kawari.
I cannot copy him.
No, you cannot copy.
Security.
This is like school. We cannot copy.
Security is...
which one?
Security.
Security.
Yes.
Good. Security. Yeah, Mr. Tataj?
For me, the most important thing in a city is leadership.
It's
Leadership.
leadership.
Leadership, yeah.
If you have good leadership, if you have good people in power, the city has good prospects to grow and tackle the challenges that all cities face. So leadership. We should invest in good leadership in cities.
Health, security, leadership. Professor?
For me, it's not a secret. For me and for Paris, we want to live in a low carbon and democratic city.
So sustainable, let's say?
Yeah, today is the most important point to livable city, to sustainable in really low carbon city. In all kind of activities, only low carbon activities.
Okay, low carbon. I think you got a
And
good...
democratic.
Yeah, definitely. I think you got a good idea from Ms. Bofinger, because I've heard her talking about low carbon and carbon
Yes.
neutrality, but
We
we're
can
not
do
allowed
that.
to copy, so
But we would have the solution for it.
yeah, we can go after that. We can go after that about that,
So
but
being last in this round, that's a bit
Yeah, you're
tricky.
the last
So maybe I can build an umbrella by saying I think it's about having a competitive city, which is a bit an unfair answer because it's probably kind of including.
I don't know if I should accept that, but yeah, being competitive city will work. All right, so we've got healthy, security, leadership, sustainable, low carbon, and competitivity. There are many of the things that you've been going through that I think are absolutely interesting. Let's go starting again by the end, because I've got some fresh things on my mind that Mr. Arias Antunes was saying. Which do you think are the critical factors for a smart city to succeed? What is really important? We're all talking about smart cities. We're all talking about we want our cities to become smart, apart from the citizens, of course, that we also have to be a bit smart. We'll talk about that. But Mr. Arias Antunes, which are those critical factors that we should kind of pay attention to?
Based on my experiences, the first one is leadership, yes. Leadership, yes. I took advantage of that. Leadership, clear vision. That's the first thing. What do we want as a city? What's our and second thing is defining this vision on a citizen centricity way, not in a technology way. Of course, technology is there, and it's there. If you go around all these booths, technology is there. In a citizen centricity way and a municipal management way. So on the two ways, I think that's relevant. Second thing, you all said ecosystem. Work with your partners, work with academia, work with public managers, and it's not just say, it's do. As I said, it's a mid-sized city. But if you go to Cascais, which is part of Lisbon, that's what they do. They are 50 partners. They work with them and they build the solutions jointly. So ecosystem is we cannot do nothing alone. We as Deloitte, we are not delivering services. We are partners in the ecosystem. Now we are buying services to companies we used to sell services to. We go together to markets with companies that used to be our clients, and we are a member of the ecosystem. The second thing, you need to find ways to pay these, because technology is expensive, infrastructure is expensive, and you need to innovate in financing these.
Zalkowari said something like, or he just pointed out, he can help you on that.
Yeah.
I will talk to him. Yeah, because
This is my point.
That's your point.
If you give him more time, then you cannot answer the question.
I'm almost finishing. No, but you need to be innovative, and innovative it can be, I don't know. You can use PPPs, you can use innovation funds, with innovation funds where public and private put money in order to invest. You can have, I would say, a cooperative approach. For instance, we have developed a platform in a co-investment between Deloitte, municipality of Cascais, and it was a co-investment. And the last one is start integrating things, start scaling up. There are many pilots, lots of use cases. All the cities are doing use cases. If I had to do a recommendation, stop the use cases, integrate what you have, put them coherent, and go to the next step. So,
Ms. Buffinger is agreeing
and I talk too much.
pretty much on what you're saying. You're welcome. She's agreeing pretty much on what you're saying. I've read a lot on her talking about that, talking about how several parts, or to make it possible, we need several parts of the game playing together. Let's say on that ecosystem, we've been talking about that, the private, the administration. How do you see this?
That's exactly the point. I mean, if you are running a city, obviously it's of your highest interest to making sure that the citizens are happy. It's smart cities are happy cities. Someone said that before. That's actually one of the hashtags I'm also using, because I think that's really the point. And for this, you really have to make sure that the citizens are involved, that they can contribute, and actually the experience that we made in hackathons, for example, they can contribute. And it's about really bringing the different stakeholders together in the city. It's about having the universities in, having startups in, having companies in. That's exactly the actually successful approach. And I think that's what more and more cities are doing. And it's of course also, and I dare to say that on the city side, of course, particularly the digitalization is now also forcing the cities to overcome their silos. Or putting it positively, it's actually a great opportunity to now have a common theme and to now work together on many topics.
We've been talking, and Professor Moreno has been talking pretty much about the importance of climate change, of sustainability. And if you read this man, you will realize that he's a humanist. He normally, and he's done it today, he doesn't talk much about smart cities. He talks more about human smart cities, or about living cities, or about cities for life, or about urban intelligence, or about citizens, smart citizens. But at the same time, you're a humanist. You have revolutionized the city of Paris. And if you go to Paris right now, you'll see there are tons of electric cars, electric scooters, everything is sharing economy, and they've done even harder things, and he was explaining that to me a bit before, which is kind of blocking and shutting down the urban motorways. These people have decreased their pollution, I think it's a 7% in 1 year, which it can sound small, but a 7% is huge. And this goes against the habits. We are all used to go from A to B fast. And these people said, no, we're going to change it a bit. You're not going to go from A to B that fast from that motorway, because we are going to create a urban, nice place, green place. How are you facing that? Yeah. A humanist kind of against the citizens for a while, a list for a while.
Sure, of course. In fact, I consider, the city of Paris consider, that the most important today is not to have technological smart cities. The most important factor is to have happy cities with happy citizens, happy cities with smart citizens.
Let me do something, excuse me, but I'm going to put this mic a bit better so that people can listen to you.
Okay.
That's much better.
Okay.
I
said that for the city of Paris, and for me in particular, we don't need technological smart cities. The most important today is to have happy cities with happy citizens.
Yeah, but your citizens were not that
smart
happy.
Citizens.
But your citizens were not that happy when you said this urban motorway is not going to be useful anymore.
The problem today with cities is the spatial distribution in cities, because our cities are very specialized. This is vertical cities, the administrative center, the headquarters of corporate, the cultural center, the district for middle class, the district for former factories, the district for refugees or immigration. In fact, our cities are very, very divided. This is classical spatial organization of cities. We need to break these urban spatial distributions. And the key for that is the mobility, because people use diesel car, because this is the possibility to link in these vertical cities. I live in the West, and I work in the East. And this is the possibility to use my car during 1 hour, a diesel car. More and more, we have the very polluted cities, we have a traffic jam, and we spend time in order to unproductive activities, on social activities, and this is today in the very difficulties. The city of Paris has decided to change this paradigm. The question is not car or not car. The question is why I need to move from point A to the point B. And I can totally transform this situation. The mayor of Paris has decided to ban car of the highway with the Seine River. And this is provoke in traumatism because people is not correct for them to transform my individual car to take the public transportation. And in fact, I consider that this is not the main problem. The real problem today is to have a middle-term and long-term vision. Because when I decide to transform the mobility in cities, the problem is not to change the car, bar an electrical car or bar a bus. The real question is the better mobility in cities is the immobility. Is the possibility we don't need to move to access with all my essential needs. What are my essential needs? To live in a house, work, care, culture, leisure. If I have the possibility, each one of you have the possibility to have around 15 minutes around your position, access to this essential need. You don't need to move with car, with just to walk, just to bike, just to soft mobilities. And this is the essential problem today, to change the spatial organization of cities. The concept is the new chrono-urbanism, the city of 15 minutes. And in this perimeter of 15 minutes, you have the possibility to rediscover the essential point today, the mixity in cities, the public space, the square, the biodiversity, the green public space, the water, fountain, the space for game, for children. This is the new concept of the 15 minutes cities.
You were explaining that to us before we met a bit, and what was, I think, very interesting was that you were saying that when you first kind of banned that urban motorway, people started to kind of get a bit angry and start messing around the city, just going all around to get to the place.
Absolutely, yeah.
After they spent an hour or 2 hours to get to from A to B, they realized they had to change their minds. So there is a change of mindset.
Yeah,
the question is, and you were mentioning about democracy and the importance of the people. Would the people of Paris have accepted your design initially if you would ask her?
No, I discussed with the mayor of Milano, Giuseppe Sale, yesterday. I discussed with the mayor of Pontevedra in Spain, in Galicia, 2 weeks ago. But this is the mayor who has decided to change the mindset of cities. And in their case, and in our case, in Paris, the mindset is very difficult to provoke the brutal change. This is the point of the social acceptability for citizens of this change.
And Ms. Tataj was talking about leadership. And leadership means also to tell to the rest of the Moedas, I'm taking you to the right place.
Absolutely.
And I need you to trust me. How do you kind of listen to your people in general, but sometimes you tell them, hey, trust me, and I'm not listening to you apparently, but I am.
Right.
Mr. Tataj, how do you manage that leadership? How do you do it?
Now, leadership is distributed. Today, every citizen is empowered to exercise power because of the mass self-communication. I'm not sure you heard about nano-influencers. people who have just a couple of hundred followers on their social media, and suddenly they can launch a campaign that will mobilize or demobilize hundreds of millions of euro or dollars. Now, I think that if you are Paris, and if you have resources of Paris, it's a challenge to transform itself. But still, you know, it seems easy, relatively, in comparison to a mid-sized city of a 200,000 inhabitants located half an hour from Paris. You know, what do we do with the cities that form part of the metropolis? But neither they have the leadership, nor they have the industry anymore very often, nor they have a great universities as Paris does. You know, what do we do with these mid-sized cities? And let me tell you about a little experiment that we've been doing here in Spain. Now, question to you, who knows where is Badalona? Hands up.
Yeah, fine.
Okay, quite many, so let me explain for those who don't. Badalona is a 200,000 city located just half an hour from here. It's an adjacent city to Barcelona. And it's an interesting case because being a post-industrial city, it has tremendous potential. It's the largest cluster of Chinese companies in Spain, 600 companies. It has great industrial traditions. It has a fantastic urban beach. And still, I would say it needs an impetus to grow, to connect with Barcelona. So we sponsored startup days and gave one of the brightest young entrepreneurs in Europe a challenge, how to transform the famous Three Chimeneas and the Badalona port area into an innovation district, such as 22 at Barcelona. And you may know well that 30 years ago, Poblenou was a horrible place. Today, it's home to many campuses, hundreds of startups, industrial labs. How do you do this to empower and inspire a city like Badalona to learn from Paris or learn from, by the way, I'm impressed how Paris became a startup hub. I am really impressed with developing the entrepreneurial ecosystem around Paris.
Yeah,
you know, what do you do with this? And I think that what is critical is to bring the ecosystem, add thought leadership from young people. Young people know better, with all respect to all of us, you know, where the future will be, because they are co-creating this future. So take some smart young people, give them a challenge, listen to what they have to say, and then bring industry on board. Because industry is also looking for solutions, how to scale up markets to deploy their technologies. It's important to think in terms of ecosystem. And with our experiment with Startup Days, which happened early this year in Barcelona, to where we are today, we are on a learning path. There are no quick fixes with cities, and there are no copy-paste solutions with cities. What is important is to deploy what we call network thinking. You may not have the 4 pillars of the economy that is critical for growth today. And these 4 pillars are research, innovation, education, and entrepreneurship. You may not have them as Paris has, or Madrid, or the countries that in the cities in the wonderful country that I come from, Poland. But if you don't have them, you surely can invest in creating the entrepreneurial ecosystem, because this is the entrepreneurial culture of a place that becomes a glue and a driver that gives dynamicism and ideas and creativity to whatever resources you have. And I think every city can think how to attract entrepreneurs, how to empower entrepreneurs, how to create spaces where they can grow. I used to work and live in the US in a city, in a mid-sized city, a college town close to Detroit. And Detroit is one of the hardest hit cities in terms of brain drain. Massive outflow over the last 50 years since the late 60s. What is happening there is that first come artists, then come entrepreneurs. With entrepreneurs often come investors and industry. So if I were to give one piece of advice to any city that is thinking on its growth model, bet on entrepreneurship. empower entrepreneurs.
What you explain is interesting, and we're going to move in part of what you say. Professor Moreno could explain pretty much the same that you were saying with Medellin, a city that we all remember in Colombia for not that good reasons, not that good fame, but after the digital innovation transformation arrived, it grew up a lot. But you were saying something.
With a very important social inclusion.
It is, it is. But I think it was very interesting that you were pointing out at entrepreneurs. That means innovation. We all love innovators. I do love them. And advisors for sure love them. But then it comes regulation. And then entrepreneurs and innovators sometimes say, okay, I mean, I brought this electric scooter, but you don't let me use it here in Barcelona or use it in somewhere. And of course, each city is alive and they have to regulate things. We saw on the first day of the Congress how 42 cities arranged that first is the city and then they will accept or unaccept some things. But the question is, how do you manage that innovation versus regulation? Because you cannot tell yes to everything of those young, brilliant minds, but you want them in because investors will come. I don't know, Mr. Arias Antunes or Al-Jahari, how do you see that? How do you manage innovation versus regulation? And I don't know, for example, Mr. Arias Antunes, what do you tell when you advise municipalities to say, hey, how do you manage this?
Yeah.
Because they want to be themselves, but they want to be modern and they want to innovate.
Yeah, the question here is, I think it self-manages if you don't do nothing. The question is, the innovators go if they feel there's a fertile field for innovating and to get the rewards from innovation. So, and if regulation is not there in order to open the doors for them to innovate and for them to invest their time, they will go to the other municipality or to the other region or to the other community to do the thing. So the advisory I would give to governments or municipalities, of course, is to put the regulation as flexible as possible, of course, keeping in mind the risks of changing everything very fast. But I think there's not a recipe. The question is be updated. Be updated, study things, and act fast. So because the world will be changing, and if it will not change in your country, it will change in the other. If it will not change in your region, it will change in the other. So it's.
I think that's really interesting, and I would need half more hour to discuss lots of topics. But you were saying something very interesting, which makes me think sometimes, for those of you who are from Spain, on the competition of innovators that you can see in between Barcelona and Madrid. And what in Barcelona is not allowed, sometimes is super allowed in Madrid. And probably that happens in each of your houses. Yeah. But talking about innovation, I think Mr. Al-Khawari, who's just built a futurist city and really modern city, maybe you can answer that. We all have heard about the new era of the internet. Any of you buy a new device, you buy the new Apple MacBook Air, you get home and it says you need to update it. And you say, oh, come on, I just bought it. I mean, you don't live it. We are in a perpetual beta. Everything is in beta. We need to update apps and services every single week, tons of times. Are we going to be updating your city or any of the cities that you advise weekly, monthly? I mean, is this sustainable? Is this daily viable? Can we do it?
This is a good question. We are now started to explore this within shared property, because being the first smart city in Qatar and the region where I come from, it's not easy to be in the top. So I've been advising my team that since we came here for the first time, and we have seen and exchanged a lot of experience from many companies and many technologies. And this technology is moving so fast that we need now, since we have the city built, we are renting it, we will be operating it, we will be collecting some of the money that as a reserve to keep up with this technology, because we cannot just sit idle when things are moving too fast. I think this is a challenge, but we need to do it, you know.
Okay, it's interesting. We have to finish, and we'll start with the Q&A. and with questions from our audience. Just a final thing, and I was thinking while listening to you, Miguel Arias Antunes introduced the fact of asking everyone what is important for you of a city. And you guys who advise cities, majors, city councils, municipalities, countries, I will ask you, what do you think is important for the citizen in the sense of how should you address to the citizen? Because at last, you're building a new world. And you have all said it's important to be a good leader, to listen to them, to ask them, to create forums. How can we address correctly to our citizens? Because if you ask to my dad, who's been used to ride car all the time, going from A to B without anyone banning streets, he would say, I'm pissed with this thing of the bicycle ride thing because I've got less pace and this is annoying. How can you explain them? What do you do for citizens? And I would like you a really 10-second short message for citizens. How should we address? And then we go with the Q&A. Yeah, you can start now.
So I think that the strategy for engaging citizens is to have a strategy of citizen engagement. Two examples. You can implement participatory budgets. There's, for instance, the municipality in Cascais we've been working with, they have implemented with huge success the participatory budget. What they do is they identify which are the list of measures that they eligible for proposing, then they submit them to forums of the citizens in order for them to vote them, and it's based on that on their votes that they go for the budget. The second thing is engaging citizens on daily problems. There are applications like in this case, the Fix Cascais, where you can report the problems that you see in the city, and you get points based on that. And based on that points, you can go to museums or you can go to health clubs from the city. So it's a way of listening to the citizens.
Great. Al-Khoury, Mr. Al-Khoury,
Yes.
which is your point for citizens? How do we listen to them?
I believe now the smart city is the future, whether we like it or not. And our leaders back home in Qatar, they have thought about it 9 years ago. This requires investment and resources and all that, you know. I think now we need to build the city, and then the city is being built for one reason, is to improve our life, to a better life, safer life, you know. And I think we need to set a good example in the Middle East, so the other projects, they start thinking of smart cities, because it's healthier for us to live in.
Okay, we need short questions so that we have time with the Q&A. 10-second question, how to face the citizens.
We are digital, but we are human, and this will not change. We need physical space for interaction. One thing a city can do is to set up a city innovation lab as a collaborative space for schools, for citizens, for makers, for doers, for innovators to come and associate and hang around together and have a little competitive budget for citizens to be able to fill in the program, the content of this space.
Yeah.
Great. Professor Moreno, 10 seconds.
Yeah, 10 seconds.
Sorry for that.
In Paris, 5% of the budget of cities is totally dedicated to participatory budget for citizens. Empowerment, involvement, to develop participative projects, and to offer the public space for citizens with transparency and local democracy.
Great. Ms. Bofinger.
Be transparent, communicate, show the citizens the sense of urgency, show them also where you want to go, and then make sure that you start quickly and that you also have so-called low-hanging fruits, so that they also see quickly a benefit for them and that they see that you are then moving towards the end goal.
Siemens have good machines. 10 seconds are 10 seconds. Thank you.
That's the German efficiency.
That's German efficiency. You know, it's great. This would never happen with a Spanish guy. Thanks very much. We have not finished. We still have 5 minutes for this Q&A. I would love to listen to our audience and know what you like to ask to these people. I think it's a great opportunity to have these leaders and these knowledgeable people so that you can ask. Any question around? A question here. I don't know if we have a mic. There it is, yeah? We've got a fixed mic, yeah. There it is, whenever you want. Thank you.
Hi, hello, my name is Rui Dias. I'm from Portugal. I'm playing the role of the skeptical guy on the audience. So my question is for Professor Moreno. You talked about democracy, about citizens' engagement and participation in your introduction note. And ultimately, smart cities are built to improve citizens' life. And we have all these IT companies outside promoting citizen-centric solutions. Do you think the citizens' involvement is really happening? Are we actually creating co-creation policies? Are citizens' participation in policy making? Or is this just tokenism participation, just superficial and giving the sense of real participation, but at the end of the day, the decision is made within the governmental offices?
Okay.
Thank you.
It's a good question. In fact, in the city of Paris, the mayor and her team has decided to develop a new concept of smart city. This is the human smart city. This is based on the city is a platform. We don't need a technological platform for city. The city is a platform. We offer the totality of city of Paris in order to develop several projects in co-creation with the public sector, private sector, architects, urbanists, technological corporates, and others. We have created a new paradigm, today is very used in different cities in the world. It's the concept reinventing cities. The initial concept is reinventing Paris, reinventing the metropole of Paris. Today is in the 40 cities, reinventing cities, 12 cities in Europe. And the concept for reinventing city is to detect different places in cities. The first call of projects, we have identified 23 different places. And in each one, have decided to develop a new urbanism project in order to develop these polycentric cities. In fact, we don't have the opposition between technologies and citizens, because the driving for us is the new services and new usages. Paris is a city driven in the innovation by usages and services for citizens. The technological solutions, that's good. We can incorporate these technical solutions only in the crisscross ecosystems, not vertical ecosystems.
All right. We have time for one quick question, 10-second question, and a 20-second answer, because if not, someone is going to come here and kill me directly. Go ahead.
I'll be as short as possible. Thank you very much to all the panelists.
Thank you.
I would like to extend my special thanks to Ms. Tataj, because actually I've been attending to 80% of the conferences, and she's the only one who has talked about the youth. And I find it a real pity that we don't have youngsters on board, and they should be consulted more, and thank you very much for this. So.
That's great. Thank you very much. I don't know if Ms. Tataj wants to answer anything. I think we don't have more time. We run out of time. So first of all, thank you very much to all of you for being today with us. It was a real pleasure. But thank you very much to these amazing people, these brilliant minds who are sometime young also. We're all sometime young.
Young
We're
forever.
we're still in a way.
I talked about my kids.
As trying to summarize very fast things that you said, because I should conclude this with a couple of minutes, but I'm going to do it in a couple of seconds. I think we should get or have in mind how important it is to feel healthy, to feel safe, to feel that you have leaders that take you to the right place, leaders who listen to you, who understand democracy and understand youth and understand new paradigms and new ways, sustainable ways. And let's be, like, as you said, clear. Let's face changes and tell to the people, to us, where do you want to go? Where do you want to take you to? Now we want to take you to the end of this chat. So thank you very much to Ms. Bofinger, to Professor Moreno, to Ms. Tataj, to Mr. Al-Kawari, and to Mr. Ares Antunes. Thank you very much.
Thank
you.